All right, welcome back to Johnny Over Under. We're now in the American League. I've got a very special guest here, Seth Garfunkel, probably my favorite person to talk props and gambling with. We will text each other at the most random times of the day, the craziest prop bets, and you can get this at this price right now. And he lives in Colorado, which is nice because he can jump on and put these insane bets in for me when I'm trying to hedge one of my crazy bets. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. You can't say for me because that might be, quote unquote illegal.
That's true.
Throwing across state line. But so far, we're building the audience, so that's fine.
Right.
Any press is good press.
Nice. So let's start with probably the most sexy, fun division, the AL East. You got a little heart in the AL East, being a Red Sox guy. By no means a homer. You're my voice is crazy. So their numbers at 84.5. Last year 77.5, and they did go over. So why don't you give me your initial thoughts on the Red Sox so far?
I think the Red Sox did a fantastic job in the offseason. I hated the Red Sox last year at the beginning of the season, but I grew to love the team. They got a lot of young kids. Their lineup is going to be dynamic. They do have some weird issues that I see, which we were talking about this before, but sometimes they'll bat 8 lefties. I'm a lefty. I love that. I think it's cool to see.
What do you think about the rumor of potentially getting Alex Bregman?
I think that would be great. Or Arenado, I heard, and I don't know if he wants to go to Boston or not, but they need a right-handed bat. They need a right-handed bat, like I was saying with all those lefty bats. If they got Arenado, they would move Devers to first, and then Casas would be out of a job. If they got Bregman, I hear they would put him at second, and then Devers would stay at third. Devers is not a good third baseman, defensively.
No. Can he play first or not really?
Yeah, I think so. I think he'd be fine. They brought over Crochet from the White Sox, who's pre-flop. He's second in the league for Cy Young odds, which I find kind of amazing. Plus 600. They also brought over Walker Buehler. I would say they have about 3 or 4 quality arms with Tanner Houck. Crawford is really good. Bellows could be good. He has his moments. So I kind of like their starting pitching. If their closer is supposed to be Liam Hendricks, I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, it's him and Chapman, right? Aroldis Chapman as well.
Yeah, Chapman's there. That's a weird one. They got an okay bullpen. One of the things that I love about the Red Sox is their pitching coach, Andrew Bailey, is one of the best in the game. There's something about Cora and Andrew Bailey really and this team. They got a lot of young kids. They actually have 3 of the top 10 prospects in baseball in their minor league system. 84.5 is very attainable.
What about the Yankees? Another thing we laughed about last year is I was a big under guy. In the beginning of the year, it looked absolutely terrible. And then they went on this historic losing streak, and all of a sudden I was back in. So 92.5 this year. I had them at 93.5 last year. I know they were 92.5 some places. The big ones obviously are bringing in Fried and Goldschmidt, and then getting Bellinger in that trade, but losing Soto, which obviously, say what you want about the guy, was absolutely incredible last year. So what are your thoughts on the Yanks?
Well, and Soto's a winner, and he was one of the he really stepped up for him the whole season and the playoffs. And what they did was they brought a Gold Glove center fielder. Now Judge doesn't have to play center field. Goldschmidt's a Gold Glove first baseman. We'll see what he has left. They lost Torres as well. But one of their big pickups, I'm not sure you mentioned, but they brought in Williams to close for them, which is huge.
Oh, right. Yeah, we didn't even get to that. Yeah.
So their starting lineup of Cole, Rodon, Fried, Heel, and Clark Schmidt, who's very underrated, is really good. Their bullpen was a top 5 bullpen last year. Now they add Williams. I have an interesting play with this. And 2 out of the last 3 years, they had 90 plus wins. They had huge starts, right?
Yeah.
My play for the Yankees would be you take the over, and you get a plus number. So let's say the over's 93.5 right now, or 94.5?
I had it at 92.5.
Okay, so if you took 93.5, which you can do at some books, you're getting plus money.
Yeah.
You let them get off to a hot start, because both this past year and 3 years ago, they had huge collapses. You can let them off to you get them. You take the over. If they let them get off to a hot start, then you come back mid-season with the under if you can get about 98.5, and then you get a 5 game window to play with. So that's kind of my
I like that.
a play that I like is trying to middle. And I think two of the great things to try to do when you're doing overs is to one, try to middle an over,
Yeah.
which we worked on last year when we were talking about Baltimore and New York and your plays. And the other is laddering. And laddering is the greatest thing you can do. About 75% of all the NFL teams this past season all were over 1 game away from their total. Okay, so if you did an alt total for most of the teams, depending on if you're going over or under, you're most likely going to make money because those teams usually are not right on that number. They're usually over by a bunch. So say for example, you like the Red Sox you really like the Red Sox. You bet them at 84.5, 86.5, 88.5, 90.5, 92.5. You're getting, plus 150, plus 300, plus 500. If you hit two of those, you're breaking even. If they have an incredible season, you're cleaning up and winning across the board in a way. And like I said, but about the Yankees, for the most part, I would say I can't bet the over because of those collapses, but I do like kind of trying to middle it.
Yeah, I think this is. We can talk about it later when we make our locks, but as of right now, I think it's kind of stay away for me. I don't know. I like because I don't want to take the over just on principle. All right, so we don't have to hit everybody quite as hard, but Toronto had a big signing, getting Santander today. What do you think of that?
I hate Toronto. But don't worry, I don't want to talk about Toronto or Tampa Bay that much. I'm not a big fan of the lineup, although Vlad had a huge second half last year, but Bichette was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And I just don't have a good feel about them.
It's hard to get behind them because they've underachieved the last 3 years so bad that and everyone's like, oh, this is Toronto's year. and it'll be like, 88.5, 87.5. And they just, I don't know. You think it was a manager thing too, or what? I don't know.
I don't know, but they not only that, even if they do make the playoffs, they get knocked out in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, if we get into the pitching rotation a little bit.
Chris Bassett, I'm not a fan of. Barrios, even though he did okay last year, I'm not a fan of. So, I do want to bring up one member of that team that I do like, who I think is their starter, their kid, Francis.
Yeah.
So he's their number 4 starter. He could be a potential stud. He had some really good outings last year, so he's a kid that I do like on that team.
Let's talk about Tampa for like 2 seconds. 80.5 this year. They were 84.5 last year. Went under, basically held under the whole year. We talked about them a little bit. I think it finally caught up with them, getting rid of everybody. And I don't know. There's not a whole lot of exciting about them. What are your thoughts there?
They lost the mystique that organization had. Where they were the first ones to have openers, right? They just had all these no names that produced, and now they're being led. Think about Chris Morel and Brandon Lau are going to strike out 400 plus times combined. They also got rid of Paredes; he's gone.
Yep.
So they all they have is Yandy Diaz. So after you get past the number 1 spot in the lineup, you're good.
Yeah.
And they got Springs was one of their better pitchers. He's gone. So they got a bunch of, if McClanahan comes back, I'm sure they'll be in a couple games. I'm not very high on that team.
No, I agree. I don't know. That would be a lean under for me. Although normally you always avoid the Tampa under, but this one might be another year for it.
Weren't they so frustrating? Sorry, weren't they so frustrating last year?
They were, but it was one of those where I just kicked myself because I had hit that over a few times, like just kind of blind because it was Tampa and they always came in over. And I was like, oh, that looks really good. But it really was never, although we were only off of it by a couple games, it never felt good the whole year.
Yeah. I have one more thing to say about Tampa that's very important to people. They're not playing in Tampa. They're playing in a minor league stadium, the Yankees minor league stadium. It holds 11,000 people. And it's outdoors, which is different. They might play in front of a full house from time to time.
Yeah, I guess, is that better? I don't know.
Could be playing in front of fans for the first time in their career.
That's a good point. All right, and then to me, probably the most exciting, intriguing one is Baltimore. 88.5, 90.5 last year. And they were on pace for 107 wins in July. And then they crap to bed. A lot of it having to do with pitching. But before we get into that, what's your initial thoughts on the Orioles?
I will say this. So I felt like they built this team to play in the wrong stadium. Okay, so they built this team on all these young, exciting position players. And then for some reason, they moved the walls back, right? So they wound up being a pitching park, which is what they've been the last 2 years. So they're taking away from their strength, which is hitting. This year in the off season, they moved the walls in. So they moved the walls in anywhere from 9 to 20 feet, and they lowered the walls. So they are on to what I was thinking was a mistake, and now hopefully it's a strength. And, say you get a couple you get a couple warning track shots, those are gone now if you're talking 9 to 20 feet. I think that they've definitely helped themselves in that way. I believe they have the best bullpen in this division with those three at the end.
Yeah.
Batista, Cano, and Dominguez. They should be really solid there. I don't love their starters. Maybe Charlie Morton comes back and does some good. Losing Burns hurts, but I wouldn't bet the under on this team. But I find it hard to take the over. But I do think, they are an exciting young position player team for sure.
Right. One other thing I wanted to bring up too about Santander is, and I know the lefty thing is a big deal, but they're saying that Tyler O'Neill might be pretty close to his numbers and a better defender. And he did have a nice year last year. So I know you guys had him for a second, didn't you, the Red Sox at some point?
Yeah,
was it last year?
He played for us last year.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call. Plus, like you said, I think it might be a little cheap. It's going to be cheaper. And he's a good Tyler O'Neill is a good clubhouse guy, too. I know some people don't believe in that stuff as much as others, but he is. Everybody loved him in Boston. So That has to go with producing, obviously. But
yeah. All right, so if you had to go right now, and obviously we have the ability, we're going to change these and talk more, who would be your two locks in that division?
So I would take the over for the Red Sox would be my first lock.
Okay.
80, like I said, 84.5. They went 81, and they had a terrible last month and a half last year, and they got better this year. And then I would take the under for Tampa Bay. I don't believe in this team, and I feel I don't agree with what's going on with that team. And I think that everybody else has started to catch on and pass by what they do.
What about if you had a wild card play, like just half the units sort of play? Who would you take?
Well, I would take the over for the Yankees at the beginning of the season, and then the under for the Yankees and try and middle it. That would be my wild card play for that.
All right, I'm going to join you with the Red Sox over, but I'm going to take Baltimore's under, and then my flyer team would probably be the Tampa under as well, the wild card there. There's just nothing exciting about that team.
I don't hate that Baltimore under. I can't pull the trigger on it, but I don't hate it.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much. We're going to do the other two divisions that will also come out sometime this week. But all right, I'll see you in a minute.
All right, thanks.